Good morning. Welcome to my quarterly reports for spring of 2018. Basically, it's my quarterly favorites for April through June. If you've seen the last one, you'll remember that I do these quarterly because I think both of us would get extremely bored if I did them monthly. So instead, quarterly. And stick around after the favorites for an announcement about this month's videos. We're going to do this in categories. The first category is TV shows. I'm not going to go into what all of these are about because I don't have a lot of time to film this video, so I will link you to something about each of them in the description. I watched a lot of really good TV this season, but I'm just going to touch briefly on each piece. First, Broadchurch. I watched all 3 seasons, but seasons 1 and 2 were my preferred seasons. I liked the focus on Danny and the mystery around what happened to him, and the following season about the sentencing. The 3rd season was completely different, and while it was good and the characters were still good, it just wasn't the same. I also rewatched 2 comfort shows, 2 shows that I really like, earlier this season because I wasn't feeling very well, so I rewatched Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated and Gravity Falls. Both of these are cartoons for kids that came out when I was an adult. I was 18 when Scooby-Doo first came out and 20 when Gravity Falls first came out. But I love them both so much. They're so well written, they have such good stories, the animation is cute, they're just right up my alley. And I've loved Scooby-Doo since I was a child, so don't at me. I also watched Marvel's Runaways on Hulu, and I loved it so much. I haven't read the comics, so I had no idea going into it what was going to come of it. And it was so good, it was so well acted, the storyline was so good, it was well written. I loved it so much, and I can't wait for season 2. I also watched Picnic at Hanging Rock, like a week after it came out, and it was so good, I still think about it daily. Daily. The costuming was incredible, the attention to detail to make it really feel like 1900, amazing. The actresses were amazing. I don't know any other word for this than amazing. I saw an article that described Picnic at Hanging Rock as Amazon's fever dream, and at first I thought, that doesn't make any sense, how can you describe a show like that? And then I watched the show. That's accurate. The aesthetic is incredible, the flashing forward and backward is incredible. It's so good. If you have access to Amazon Prime, you should watch it. Probably the show I was most obsessed with this season was Killing Eve. Killing Eve. Killing Eve. Killing Eve. Killing Eve. I'm actually going to talk about this show in a future video about TV shows about women, so I don't want to go into it too much, but Sandra Oh and Jodie Comer are amazing. I love them both. Their characters were so fully well acted, so three-dimensional, so real, that I felt like I knew them. It was just... The writing was great. Phoebe Waller-Bridge is always great. She, speaks my language. It's such a good show. It's on BBC America. I think you can get it on their app. You should watch it. And The Bold Type is back. There's only been 3 episodes of this season, but I loved season 1, and I'm loving season 2 so far. The development of the characters is great. They're really growing up and growing into their own, and I'm so excited to see where this season goes. Next section is podcasts, and again, just a brief description about what they're about. Okay, first up is spines. Have you ever wondered what you would do if you woke up in a kiddie pool full of blood, with another person in that kiddie pool with the remains of a, Satanistic ritual, and no idea who you are? Well, Ren doesn't have to worry because that's exactly what happened to her. And we follow her journey of figuring out who she is, where she came from, why she has these abilities, what happened, what was going on in that house where she woke up in a kiddie pool full of blood. It's just such a good podcast. The voice acting is great, the characters are interesting and unusual. The concept behind it is totally unique. I've never heard of something like this before. And the whole series is out, so you can listen to the whole series start to finish. It's completed. Next is Tunnels, about a man's search to understand the tunnels underneath this town and the creatures that inhabit them. I think I might have talked about Tunnels before, but I'm not sure, but I just listened to the newest episode yesterday. I feel like I've lost track of who some of the characters are at this point, actually, because we're in season 3 now, I think? Yeah, season 3. But the story is still really compelling, and they're still finding new ways to reveal new things about this mystery 3 seasons in. I also listened to Lake Clarity. The whole first season is out, and we're in season 2 right now. I liked the first season a lot in that it's classic horror, and I like the second season in that it's more investigative journalism about said classic horror. The characters are different, but the second season characters are investigating the first season's big happening. Let's put it that way, happening. It's really well produced, and it sounds extremely professional, and I love it. I also listened to Here Be Dragons, which is, I mean, it's a serious audio drama, but it's also very funny because the characters are so good. The characters are really well acted and well written and well rounded. So they're serious scientists on this submarine trying to find some kind of creature, but they're also individuals and their interactions are really funny sometimes. Plus there's sirens. Who wouldn't want sirens? I listened to Attention Hallmark Shoppers as well, and now I can't go into a big box store without hearing any part of that podcast in my head. It's really good though. It's very funny. It's a totally unique storyline. There's a Hell Mart, or Hello Mart, on top of a mouth of hell. This big Wall Street trader gets sentenced for embezzlement, and after his sentence, he gets work placement in a small town big box store where his only family, his great aunt, lives, and the ensuing chaos and hilarity is wonderful. And for my last podcast, there's a nonfiction podcast called Explore a Story that comes from the Field Museum and the people behind the Brain Scoop, including my personal fave, Emily Grassley. In this podcast, she talks to scientists and museum people every episode and talks about an experience in their life that really shaped the way that they view science and their career. It's really interesting. There's a couple episodes where they were in Berlin and they got the stories from just everyday people. I really recommend those. It's really cool. I really enjoy it, and one of these days I'm going to get around to recording a sound bit for the end and submit it. Seriously, if you like science or museums or interview podcasts, you will love Explore a Story. Okay, to the book section. I've actually only read 13 books this year, though I am currently reading 4, so I'll get up higher soon. But these are the ones that I've read this year that I have enjoyed the most. First, The Girl Who Takes an Eye for an Eye by David Lagerkrantz. This is the newest in the Lisbeth Salander Millennium series. It's the 5th book. I'm hoping there will be a 6th. I think there will, because I really feel like David Lagerkrantz found his groove with this book over the previous one. He was working with someone else's characters, and by this book he's really gotten in their heads and figured them out and understood them so that he can make really in-character decisions for them. It's so good. I can't tell you too much about it because it'll spoil some of the 5th book, and the 5th book is still new enough that I don't want to spoil it, but Lisbeth is in an unexpected place, and she is still Lisbeth Salander, the righter of wrongs. And Mikhail is still going to help her. I listened to it on audiobook, and I started it on a Sunday, and I finished it by that Friday, despite the fact that it's a 10-hour book, and I had intended to just listen to it while doing, like, yard work, housework, stuff that I was doing around my house that I needed something to entertain me with. I listened to it all straight through. I kept listening for hours. It was so good. I actually downloaded the Audible app onto my Fire Stick and listened to it on that for like 4 hours. It was so good. It was so good. It was so good. This one, I feel like, really takes the spirit of Stieg Larsson, more so than the 5th book did. I also listened to It Devours by Joseph Fink. This is a Welcome to Night Vale novel. It's the 2nd one, and it focuses on Nilanjana Siktar, and she's a scientist who works with Carlos, and they're investigating some weird happenings in the desert and the desert otherworld. I also started this one while mowing my lawn, and continued listening to it while not mowing my lawn, because it was really good. I'm not shocked by that, because I listened to the first Night Vale novel and loved it, and listened to it initially while mowing the lawn, and ended up listening to it all the time. But it was just, like, it had been long enough since I read the first one that I didn't remember just how good it was, and now this one is so good too. Oh, it's so good. Nilanjana is a really cool character, and we really get inside her head, and I really like that. It's so cool. With the Welcome to Night Vale novels, and really any novel that stems from a podcast, I would say listen to it on audiobook, because that's the way that the original source material was created, and I think it's the best way to do it. I also listened to All by Myself Alone by Mary Higgins Clark in my car on CD. My car still has a CD player. I checked it out from the library. It was really way better than I thought. I figured, this will be kind of hokey. It's Mary Higgins Clark, you know, she's considered such a grand dame of suspense, but she's mostly listened to by elderly women at my library, so I thought, maybe it'll be hokey. It was so gripping. I considered taking the CDs into my house with me and listening to them in my DVD player. I sat in my car for like 20 minutes after I got home several times just listening to this audiobook. It was incredible. I listened to it, and then I was talking about it with my coworker, and she started listening to it because I talked about how good it was. That's how good it was. The characters are really interesting, and this is one of the few mysteries where I had an idea of who the murderer might be. Like, I had a list. I had considered the person that it was, but I considered them a long shot. So Mary Higgins Clark kept their identity hidden well enough that I was a little bit shocked. Just a smidgen. Okay, more than a smidgen, more like a smudgen. I've actually read one of her books before, Two Little Girls in Blue. Super suspenseful. You should totally read that too, but that's not the topic of this video. I read that 4 years ago. Finally, we reach a physical book. I'm talking about Harrow County. I read 5 and 6, I think were the volumes I read. Yeah, 5 and 6 this past few months. I got them from other libraries and they were so good. I hadn't read Harrow County in a while because I just couldn't get my hands on the volumes for a while, and I almost forgot just how incredible this is. I talked about it in last month's Comics I Love video, which I'll card or link somewhere. But Harrow County is about a young woman discovering she's a witch in the Depression-era South, and it's done in these beautiful watercolors with incredible storylines that they're not like a lot of other witch storylines. They're really interesting, and the characters, aside from Emmy, our main character, are also just as fully fleshed out as Emmy. Can you tell I like fully fleshed out characters? I do. I really do. The other physical book that I read and loved was Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. This is what the movie is based on, and I read it because the movie trailer looked interesting, and the book was so intriguing and so hard to put down that I just read 140 pages of it in one day. The last book for this section is Disobedience by Naomi Alderman. I listened to this on audio, again, primarily while I was mowing the lawn, but also during off times because I liked it so much. This is about 2 Jewish women in London, one of whom has maintained her orthodoxy and the other one has left the Orthodox community, and they were in a relationship when they were young, and now they're adults, and the one woman who left's father died, he was the rabbi. The 2 women are Esti and Ronit. Esti has stayed in the Orthodox community, Ronit has not, she's actually moved to New York, and Ronit comes back because her father, the rabbi, is dead, he's passed, and she finds out that Esti is married to her cousin, David, who is also her father's assistant. And their chemistry is still there, and it's so good. Naomi Alderman really gets us inside their heads, and I would recommend the audiobook if you can, because the performance is great, and because there are segments that are inside one character's head and segments that are not, and the narrator does that difference really, really well. I read this 50% because the movie looked really good, 50% because Jen Campbell talked about it and made it sound really good. I'm also listening to, and was listening to right before I started filming, The X-Files Cold Cases as an audiobook. It's more like a radio show than a traditional audiobook, and David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson play the main characters again. Of course, they have to. And there's also other actors from the original series that have come back to do the voices in this series. It's great. It's such a good tribute to The X-Files, which is like my entire childhood. I was raised on The X-Files. I just watched some episodes yesterday. Oh, it's so good. I only have like half an hour left in this audiobook and I want to finish this video so I can go listen to the rest of it. It's that good. I love it so much. Then this is the miscellaneous section for like other stuff that's not books or podcasts or media or historical events or whatever. So let's get into it. First up, Sudoku. I've done Sudoku puzzles before, but in an attempt to lessen my screen time right before bed, I bought the Sudoku book, and I've been doing the Sudoku before I go to sleep, and 1, I enjoy the puzzle aspect, I like to be challenged, and 2, I think I'm getting better sleep, actually, since I've been doing that. I'd recommend it, especially if you have trouble sleeping like I have had in the past. In this section, I also want to talk about some makeup items I've been loving lately because I love makeup. The palettes that I've been loving most lately are this BH Cosmetics Festival palette. It's gorgeous. I'm not wearing any of it today, but like, look at all those colors. And they're super well pigmented and like well put together. And the other one is the BH Cosmetics Zodiac palette, which looks like that. And I'm actually wearing this Aquarius shade. I've also been really into lip gloss lately. This is the one I'm wearing today. This is from e.l.f. It's just their shimmer lip gloss in the shade Believe. It's like $2 and it's nice and it smells really good. Thank you for sitting through that. Here's the announcement part. All of July I'll be putting up 3 videos a week. Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday. So check back on those days for a new video every single time. In the comments, tell me what you've been loving the last few months. Thank you for watching. I hope you're well. Bye.